Welcome back to the Lanterne Rouge Cycling Podcast, and today I'm going to be doing an interview with one of the team managers of a cycling team. We've had him on the podcast before, Jens Haugland of UNOX Pro Cycling and UNOX Women's Team and UNOX Dare Development Team. And is there some Norwegian Nordic skiing team next to that, or is that the three teams that you have?
Oh, I think, as always, you did it well, Benji. I can't say we have a cross-country team yet, but we have a couple of skiers, but no team yet.
Okay, we're going to be talking about, X-Men's team, women's team, and also some overall cycling stuff in between as well. But this video is brought to you by Zwift. Whether you're just starting out on your cycling journey or are looking for those final tune-ups ahead of a big event or race, Zwift is the online cycling platform that makes things fun. There are 9 different worlds, thousands of kilometers of virtual road, including replicas of real-world climbs like Alpe du Zwift. There's workouts, training plans, events, and even races for every level of rider. Zwift's massive community means you're never alone on the road. So if you want to know more about Zwift or want to start your 7-day trial for free, head to Zwift.com below. I'll start off simple. One of the most important questions that I think people have for UNOX at the moment. We know that the Tour de France 2023 is coming up in 7-8 months, and there was a bit of a debacle about B&B versus UNOX in 2022, who was going to take the wildcard there, and eventually, unfortunately, it was to the French team. UNOX, how confident are you that you can get a wildcard for the Tour de France in 2023?
I really would like to go to Bilbao. But I've also learned the game a bit. You just don't meet up in the offices in Paris and get the yes or no. You get a lot of good talks, a lot of smiles, and a nice atmosphere. But I'm still waiting for that Christmas gift, which will probably, hopefully, be a January gift, I guess, in this case.
Is it a bit of a luck that Cavendish might end up at Astana? Because let's say it would have gotten, he would have arrived at a certain other pro team that was also in the running. Do you think you would have had less success then?
Yeah, I think we can be pretty straight with this. Huge disappointment for B&B, given the circumstances the last weeks and riders out of contract and now are left alone trying to solve the future. But of course, that opens up a very attractive spot for alternative teams. Then the next question was what will happen with Mark and where will he go? Given that the rumors are true, that he's sitting on the Villiers bike now in Spain and will race for Astana next year, that means that he doesn't improve the position of other pro teams in the hunt for the wildcard. So frankly speaking, then I think the spot is open for us if we behave properly, present ourselves in a positive way, and based on both sportive and also other criteria, I think we should be the ones selected for that spot.
Personally, I think so as well. But hey, they didn't ask me last time, so I don't expect they'll ask me in 2023. I think you'd enjoy that they asked me though in 2023.
Indeed. Yeah, and it's all you can always debate what will happen with the project of Fabian in Tudor, what will happen with in the Q36.5. You also have Euskaltel. But at the end of the day, I know also Asu is very conscious about selecting teams that's been in the peloton for a while. And from the impression I have, they don't like projects just jumping in and out of their identity. So I really hope that our way of doing things is attractive enough for a spot.
Okay, and what would be your case for the race? Because we know that Alexander Kristoff is joining you, which is a pretty big name to join UNOX, knowing he's got the Norwegian legendary status right now. Who do you think is more important to Norway, by the way? Kristoff or Hushovd?
That's a question I'm not going to risk answering to. What I can say, I like them both a lot. Thor has an international reputation out of this world, I would say, also after his career. He won the Worlds. And then Kristoff, he has the monuments in Flanders and in Milan-San Remo. 89 UCI victories. Let's just say I like them a lot, both of them, and they are both helping us out in the situation we have at the moment.
And would your case for the Tour de France be having Kristoff as one of your vital riders there? And do you also consider Johannessen as like a spear point during that race? Would it be stage wins or would it be GC, or does that depend on how the season goes for them after Johannessen's injury?
Yeah, I would say basically regardless of the situation of individual riders, if we can go to the Tour de France, we will go there to race with our hearts out. I don't think we as a pro team should go there with GC ambition. That will come out as a big bonus. But we will use the riders we have performing at the different stages and be in a completely attacking mode and not hunt the TV breakaways. I don't care about them, but we really want to make good races. And, if we can go home to Norway with a stage win in the first year in Tour de France, I can start working on my Wikipedia profile.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. And also on your Netflix IMDb profile as well.
Oh yeah, hopefully that would be great. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, good suggestion.
But we spoke about the Tour de France. Let's talk about the Giro for a second. Lotto Soudal, Lotto Destiny. Sorry. Belgian teams change sponsors every week. Huh? Yeah, crazy. Lotto rejecting their automatic wildcard for the Giro. Total, I think, has stated that they also do it, which means that it's basically adding 2 other spots next to the fact that I'm guessing a Bardiani will go to the race and Aiolo probably will go to the race selected by the RCS organizers. Do you expect to try and go for that spot, knowing you're also trying to go for the Tour de France spot? Will that be viable, riding 2 Grand Tours in 1 year? Or do you expect the likes of a Q36.5, an Israel, or even a Tudor to show up for that instead?
I don't think we will get that spot. Basically, what you said now, it's locked up with Aiolo and Bardiani, and I think it's also further locked up with Q36.5 Nibali project and Tudor with Fabian, and then Koratek also coming from the side here with a new exciting pro team. So all in all, tough for us to get that spot. We have a very positive dialogue with RCS. And RCS is not necessarily all about the Giro for us. We have a Milan San Remo and other races there as well. Yeah. And to be frank, for us as a young team, trying to do 2 Grand Tours in 1 year might be too much. And I realized, and I've learned how to read this market, that I'm kind of expecting us not to get it now in the Giro, and I'm spending my energy on making sure that we are really attractive in the Tour de France spot. So I guess hopefully that's a bit of an answer.
No, certainly, very much an answer. We just finished a UCI points cycle. We know that Alexander Kristoff was a big point scorer in the previous cycle for Intermarché and so forth. Is his signing for the status that he has, or also because he's that good at scoring UCI points, or is it the combination of both?
A combination of both, and I think again we will see some changes. I think in the point system, it will come out from the UCI. I think they have to do something about it. I think we can expect some adjustments there. But I'm going to be pretty straightforward about that. I think the point system, like it or not like it, was pretty straightforward in the 3-year cycle, and we knew we didn't have that points to get the license in this application round. But at the same time, if you look at Alexander, he gained over 2,000 points just in 2022, and we had almost 3,000 points. So of course, it's a huge gain for us getting a point scorer like him on board. And you can also see the selections Lotto Destiny is doing now in terms of races next year. The teams are starting in earlier phases to plan for making the points, because it's going to be like this at the end of 2025 one more time, and we all have to read the articles of Raul in the complete of 2025 as well.
Yeah. Now, knowing that we've spoken before about UNOX men's team being in World Tour at some point in the future, is that an aim for the next cycle? And next to that, is that something you're actually adapting the calendar towards to score as many points as possible?
Completely. I think, I guess we have seen the latest months, and I would say the latest years. You never know what happens in cycling. We are knocking on the door, and I will keep on knocking on the door every year. And every possible situation, I have to get inside that World Tour license door. And I think also the UCI has been very open about us, saying that we have I would say, a superb application. They approved everything. The only thing missing was the points. I will try to settle that matter in the next 3-year cycle, and if earlier possible, I will do that as well. So there's no discussion about it from our point of view. We will make it. It's just a point of time, question about time, and then we'll take it from there.
Nice. Look forward to seeing the team grow and so forth. And one of the aspects of the growth is, well, there's multiple aspects to the growth, but let's talk about the formation of the team at the moment. It's very much rooted in talent from Norway and Denmark. That's the focus of it, which is logical, knowing it's such a focus marketing-wise as well for X and so forth. But is your plan to continue growing the pool of Norwegian and Danish talent? Because you're currently kind of limited to the scope of Norwegian and Danish riders. Or will you at some point expand outside of that scope?
I don't like the word limited, Benji. Norway won 2 world championships in Wollongong just months ago.
Yeah, true. But one of them is off to Jambo, eh?
Yes, but for how long is it going to stay there? You never know. I think we have been very clear about that in the men's group, that we consider the potential of riders good enough now from Norway and Denmark. All agents outside of Scandinavia, of course, wants us to look for riders outside of Norway and Denmark. But so far it's clear for us, and we continue to have our other or main core businesses in Norway and Denmark. Hence, I will stick to that plan. And also, if you look at the contract situation of Norwegian and Danish riders the next couple of years in other teams than our, we have a lot of exciting positions to work on, and to see if we can get home some of those bastards. So we'll see if we can do that. In the women's team, the story is a bit different. Honestly speaking, it has a bit to do with quality. You can't find 16 to 20, I would say, World Tour ready female riders from Norway and Denmark. So I'm trying to stick that to the rule of thumb of having at least half of the roster from Norway and Denmark in the women's team.
Okay, we spoke about Haugland there for a second, and Foss winning those world championships and in Wollongong and so forth. Now, an aspect to that is they are currently at Jumbo-Visma, which is not amazing. You would probably rather have them in your team. Why do you think X is a better team to sign for Norwegian youngsters than Jumbo-Visma's development? That's a stinky question, I know.
First and foremost, I really respect the work of Richard and what they are doing in Jumbo-Visma. It's a very, very good project, very long term, and I think they are they're playing at the highest stage at the moment. I also think that a lot of these youngsters, it's an individual case, If you look at Nordhagen, he's a very mature young rider. He made good decisions about his future. And we also have to accept in Norway that we are losing riders to bigger teams. We are not Real Madrid or Barcelona. We are hopefully a good version of Ajax sometimes. And that's just how it is. And at the moment, that is the pyramid in the system. But being young, it's a vulnerable situation. We can see all those stories in social media and from different teams about younger riders having a hard time finding their spot in the circus. And this is something we should respect. It's a rough sport. It's a rough world out there, and earning money is not all about it. It's a complete package of schools and friends and family and being safe. And I think with our model, we have a very, very robust model in Scandinavia, taking care of our people. It's not for everyone, and we respect that. But I also think that we can see cases of riders coming back home to us after some years out. And then that's maybe. Hey,
Leknesund?
We have a Leknesund, we have a Widerberg, there's a Byström, it's a Haugland. I can keep on going. And these guys, they bring experience, We brought back Rasmus Tiller as an example. See how well he has been racing for us the last couple of years. So as I've always said, what goes around comes around.
Yeah. Now, last year we had this interview before, and we discussed the investments in development pipelines in Norway and Denmark when it comes to, I think, Ringerike and so forth, like those club teams and so forth. I don't know the exact name of every single club team that you're
doing
investing
well.
in. Is there a next step in that process? Because you've got your U23 team, you've got your club teams that you're investing in. Is there a next step in that? Can you get a junior team in between, or is that those club teams? Like, what's the next step there with that development?
No, we can put on another dimension to it, and that's related to a junior race program combined with the school system in Norway and in Denmark for that case. The juniors in Denmark have a bit of a better position than in Norway. That's something we are considering. You could see riders, Nordhagen and Kulset and those young riders, they raced Val Romée this year in France in a project supported by us and NTGs, which is the sports high school in Norway. So we have a dialogue about that. But it's also, we are kind of the one and only contributor at the moment in Norway related to financials and cycling in clubs and schools. As I've said many times, I really want some more partners to join that boat and make sure that we continue the development, because we have an extraordinary situation in Norway and Denmark for that case. So we will see what we can do in terms on the junior side, and then maintain the existing structure we have with clubs and federations.
Now, a bit more about the women's team for a second. We spoke about the men's team quite a lot.
Yeah.
With the relegation system now existing on the women's side as well, how, on a scale from 1 to 10, how confident are you that the team can remain in World Tour? Or is it also a fact of time? It's not the biggest deal if we drop out for 1 year and then come back in the future. What's your view on it?
I'm not. It's not the biggest deal, to be honest. I think because we have a very solid project, but confident 6, 7 depends on my mood in the morning. But I would say we have brought on Maria Julia. We have brought on Anushka Koster, Amalie Didriksen. Of course, there's no coincidence there. These are riders being able to pull off quite some points for us. But it's rough, and we really need to be quite cynical about the calendar in 2023. We can't race all World Tour races. It's impossible. We need to find that balance between racing World Tour and scoring points also in point one races. So we will be more strict about where to go in 2023 than in 22.
You said it. Confalonieri joining, Didriksen joining, and Koster joining together with riders like Atosalo growing and so forth. They can gain substantial points throughout the next season, but there's also the fact that in 2022, the 3 races that was won by the team were national championships. If you had to choose a race that you think you are capable of winning in 2022 with the women's team, I'm guessing you're going to go for the Ladies Tour in Norway stage?
If I can, but I also love I love Scandinavia. The race there, of course, very important to us in the development of cycling in Scandinavia. But I also love being in Belgium, man. Maria Julia, she came 3rd in Gent-Wevelgem last year, or this year, sorry, and Susanne 7th. So we have other options as well. And also going to France for the second time. We had a fantastic week in Tour de France. Actually, we had Mia 17th in the GC, which was quite good for us actually in the GC.
Yeah.
So we will keep on working on that. And Alexandra Greenfield, she has a very clear plan about how to both achieve the points, but also making sure that we don't compromise the thinking of being long-term. Because if we mess up the structure with being short-term instead of thinking long-term with these young girls and just pushing them into the point world, then this is not how we will work. So we have to stay to the identity and philosophy.
I think so. Now, there's also the aspect that the Women's World Tour calendar just keeps on growing every single day. I swear that a new World Tour race pops up every time I take off my socks and put new ones on. Like,
you need
to, there's so many.
Really?
Okay. You know what I mean, eh? You know what I mean.
Oh.
Now, I think there were like 35 in 2017, 52 in 2018, 71 in 2021 or 2022. There's UAE Tour women's race now coming up as well. Like, at what point is the limit reached? Because your team is, I think, the only one with 16 riders, the women's team, of the entirety of World Tour. Could be wrong. There might be one more or something. Is that the limit, 16, right? Like,
I think
should
you
the
can
limit be higher?
sign up to 20,
Oh,
but
okay.
it's also about the financials there in this
Yeah.
case, So, and to be honest, the limit is already been reached. I think we will see that the next couple of years. It's not sustainable at the moment. I think in terms of the number of riders we have in the teams.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, keep in mind in the female peloton in women's cycling, we are not forced to race every World Tour race. So we need to keep in mind that that's a huge difference compared to the men's peloton. And you can choose to use that system or not. And we're going to make use out of it. We're going to be smart in where to race and where not to race. And we can't complain about the calendar on Twitter or wherever you want to complain when we are free to race whatever race we decide to race. So if you don't use that tool, then you will end up in trouble. But making sure you use that tool, you should be fine.
A question towards that, though. On one end, you indeed have the ability to be able to choose your races. But on the opposite end, you also need to score UCI points. You need to choose wisely then which races you go to, right?
Yeah, but also a fun part of the game. I think it. But as an example, look at how Arkea played it out in the first part of 2022. They basically secured their spot in the first months of 2022, just being smarter than a couple of their competitors and making sure that they had 5 riders top 10 in Drobro Leon, and that you were just smiles the rest of the spring season. So it's also a part of being smart in terms of planning and making sure you find the right calendar for your team. That part I actually like of the system. I think that's also that comes with good management and well-planned management.
Yeah, I think so as well. There's certainly teams that didn't have that on their end when it comes to the men's side. Now, there's currently a limited amount of women's teams. What do you think about the size of the women's peloton right now in terms of World Tour? Should there be more than the 15 women's World Tour teams? Is that a good amount? Should it expand to 18 like the men's, or not really an opinion on it?
I think it's just fine. I think they have found and it will continue to grow. When we look at the media figures from Tour de France, it will continue to grow a lot in the years to come. I think 15 is fine. It opens up a good spot for wildcards as well. And 15 should be financially sustainable, I think, given the license criteria from UCI at the moment. So pretty confident about that. As long as we are not forced to race every World Tour race, then I have to go to Twitter again.
They need to complain because otherwise can't find enough riders, 1 year team cars and so forth for all the races.
But honestly, we also need to take into account a lot of young girls in the peloton at the moment.
Yeah.
And we also know from a lot of science that younger female riders, they might need more time to develop properly in terms of just coping with the sport and the very hard requirements such a sport have on their body. So we need to respect the similarities between the men and the women, but we also need to remember and acknowledge the differences between men and women. And good management over time is necessary from both UCI and other stakeholders to make sure that we take well care of the system.
Is that one of the reasons, the fact that we've got so many young riders in World Tour right now in the women's peloton, that we don't see like U23 teams necessarily outside of what Wildcard was, for example? Like, we're not at the point yet where a World Tour team also has a U23 team. They just take U19 riders in their team in World Tour.
No, we have some. Yeah, we have some initiatives from Canyon. We have some initiative from AG Insurance. But no, you're right. And this also makes it very important that I cannot force World Tour races to the body of Anina Artosalo for the complete season, because that's just too much for such a young girl. and I just need to be conscious about it. I would love to see under 23 races in the calendar for in women's cycling. It would be very positive, and hopefully we can start very soon with a world championship where you don't have to cross the line first in elite peloton to make sure that happens.
Yeah, that's very true. That was one thing that I hated about the world championships, the fact that the U23 rider
Hate
gets
is a
awarded.
very strong word, Benji.
Sorry, it's one of my deepest hates in the world was that U23 jersey, given being taken in that world champ. Oh, every night in my sleep, I just nightmares.
It's a step in the right direction, but hopefully we can continue making those steps into the complete under 23 race. Yeah.
Now, a question I didn't ask when it comes to the men's team, by the way. Both Johannessens had injuries. I think Tobias had knee injury, where it wasn't the biggest surgery, apparently, from the one article that I read.
They basically have similar bodies. So if we go to surgery with Tobias on his body, we just immediately call Anders and make sure we do the exact same thing.
And like when it comes to Anders' myocarditis, have both gotten through their injuries, or is there a more long-term effect to both?
That you never know, and I'm not a doctor, so I'm going to be careful about saying that. But currently, they are both going fantastically well, I would say. Tobias is, he's on the top 3 list from the camp now in December in Spain. Anders is just being a bit more careful based on his history. But at the moment, it's looking great for the twins, and we're going to be smart about where and how to use them. And not making sure that we don't consider them as twins in this case. We make sure that they do what they individually need in the start of the season.
Just both exactly the same thing every single day.
Actually, but it's also, we have seen that when they race together, they race really, really good. Blood is thicker than water, and the way they raced L'Avenir a couple of years ago, winning stages, both of them, it's something to be aware of. It's a very special bond between those two guys.
Yeah. Now, let's talk about overall cycling for a second.
Oh, yes.
Ooh la la. You like talking about this on Twitter as well, in my DMs. But let's talk about the UCI for a second. Yeah. How do you think the UCI can adapt the team application system to prevent events like the collapse of B&B Hotels that we saw in recent months?
I understand both sides of the story, because UCI also want to make sure that they do everything in their power to keep the works of staff and riders and so on. But I also think that the UCI has a very clear, when I get the papers in September from the UCI about the instructions, they are very clear. These are the deadlines. And I think sticking to those deadlines is very important. It's predictable for team managers, for sponsors, for riders, and for staff. Yeah. And the riders now left out in the dark in B&B, it's a story with, and I'm sure the UCI also feel this as a rough matter. You don't want to have these stories. So if it's possible to make sure we don't get them, I think we should try everything in our power to do that. And number one is to be very clear and stick to the deadlines that we have. And that's how it is. I spent, I don't know how many hours ahead of the deadline, the 17th of October, to make sure that my teams are ready for the application. Yeah. And it's also about respect for the teams spending so many efforts to actually trying to meet those deadlines,
For the people that don't know, can you run us through like not specifically, but through all the work that needs to be done to get your application in? Because I bet there's like something that needs to be paid. Then next to that, you also need a lot of documentation. Is there like a list of...
It's a pretty predictable process. You have to provide, of course, contracts of riders and staff and bank guarantees, sponsorship contracts, a budget, a lot of statements, a lot of declarations. For me, it was about 350 documents, maybe. But we spent, I don't know, 3 weeks to prepare this, and then it's reviewed by the PwC, as an objective part on it. It's a very, I would say, transparent and open and good process. PwC then send the recommendation to the UCI, and the UCI puts the stamp on it saying yes or no. And that's basically how it works. Of course, more details can be added to that. But we know how this process is set up, and we get information early. It's not like we are not informed about the process or its complex data materials and so on. So there are some fees to be paid, but it's not like you're emptying your pockets to do that either. So normally I would say it's a transparent process and a good process, but we need to make sure that we stay to the instructions being sent out to the teams.
Okay. Now, I think Gersilana of Trek, the team manager there, mentioned a potential solution to the B&B thing, that you'd have the application process earlier in the year. Is that viable or is that not viable?
No, it's viable. I don't disagree with Luca in that case. I think it's possible to push the deadline earlier, as long as we get the information early in the season. And I guess the intention of doing that is to make sure you still have a window to take care of riders and stuff, not being able to fulfill the license criteria and then search for other alternatives. It is really, think about the riders in B&B now sitting there and just doing everything in their power, being able to go on two wheels next year. And you can. It's not about necessarily Luca Mozzato or Frank Bonamour or Axel Lawrence. It's about those riders that don't have those options available to them.
Now, when it comes to just overall cycling team stuff, again, we've spoken about the UCI enough, I would say. Let's talk about UNOX a bit more. Next to Kristoff, you've got the likes of Magnus Coulson joining from the UNOX Dare development team. Sander Hansen as well. Fredheim, pretty solid sprinty guy as well. Coulson being more the climby type that we saw at Tour of the Alps, I think, got top 30 in GC, if my memory serves me right.
Then Ben Dixon always does.
Haha. I prepared. I signed Fredheim in like this video game during the year, so I'm like all on top of it when it comes to Fredheim.
He makes me nervous. I need to work a bit. He needs to just behave a bit better than he did a couple of sprinting stages in Langkawi. But he has this sprinter set that we need just to contain a bit. But very young and exciting prospect for our system.
Now, Kristoff's obviously the big name signing, but are you expecting stuff from the likes of Magnus Coulson in next season already, or is that more a long-term process?
Magnus will need some more time. He some years ago he also had he has a very special history of having a rough crash. Spent quite some time on off the bike, recovering from that. But he will do well in the climbing part of the team. And then we have, as you said, we have Ben Dixon coming on. We have Sander Hansen. We have Fredheim. I would say quite similar prospects, all-rounders, just putting more engine into the system, more robustness into it. And then you have Alex, and that's a different story. It's about being a quite unique role model for all of my young guys. I have quite a lot of them, and they need to see what's needed to stay at the level of making sure you have 89 UCI victories.
Yeah, that's for sure. Now, final question. Alexander Kristoff, destined to be great next season. I'm looking forward to seeing him in the UNOX Colors. I've tweeted it last week or something.
I've seen it.
Is there a plan after a cycling career for Kristoff at the team? Is there already conversations about a potential staff role in the future? Or is that something that might come later towards the end of his contract?
No. And I think if you ask Alexander or asks his wife or kids, he has 4 of them, twins actually also. I think that Alexander has been pretty clear about he wants to go full gas. This is not a retirement plan in UNOX to the end of his career, which is 3 years down the road probably. And then I think he will spend his energy on a couple of other things. He has other interests, I think, outside of cycling as well. So I would say, from my first guess, I don't see him ending up in a sports director's car. But you never know when you guys from the media call or any other options he might have. But at the moment, racing full gas 3 years, and then I think he will try to relax the engine a bit.
Yeah, he's allowed to after that career.
Oh,
now,
indeed.
I'm very much looking forward to seeing X in the next season. I'm also very much looking forward to seeing Alexander's twins in their development team in a few years.
Yeah, it's a part of the recruitment strategy. We also have Eleanor Barker and Kasper Fulsak have already made their first one. So it ties back to making sure we get new generations up.
Yeah, you know what they say, the Tour de France victors always get younger with Pogacar and so forth. At some point, we're going to get a 14-year-old Kristoff winning a stage somewhere. Anyway, it was great having a... Sorry?
Likewise, Benji, likewise. And let's hope the UCI make sure that does not happen.
Yeah, certainly. Imagine having cycling agents talking to 14-year-olds.
I think we already have. I'm sorry to tell.
Yeah, probably. Anyway, thank you very much for the conversation, Jens. We had it last year. We have it this year. Guess we have to have it next year?
Hopefully, and a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, Benji, and enjoy your time off, hopefully, on the rollers.
You as well, and I can't wait for the invitation to the pre-Ronde van Vlaanderen meeting in, what was it? Oudenaarde, or was it close to Oudenaarde last year?
I was in Viste in our service course. We are already started to plan for it for next year. I just need the wildcards, eh?
Exactly. Very much looking forward to meeting you in real life at some point, but that's it for today. Thank you very much for everyone for listening.
Cheers,
and we'll have other guests on in the future. We'll have other podcasts coming up pretty soon. So that's it. Ciao.